for the preservation of wealth, my personal preference is gold. But silver definitely needs to be part of your portfolio. So we're going to look at Germany because it's the most well-known one. It's not the worst case of hyperinflation, but it is the most well-known. And here you go. You have a 5-mark note, a 5-mark silver coin, which is an ounce of silver, and a 5-mark gold coin, which is roughly this size, okay? So, and you can see the difference in size between them. This is teeny, weeny, weeny, weeny. It's a 20th of an ounce-ish, okay? Now, in 1918, it took 5 marks to buy a loaf of bread. But by 1923, it took 200 billion marks to buy a loaf of bread. Okay, so now we're going to see how silver performed during that period of time. And you can certainly see that it went up. 5 loaves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loaves of bread in 1918. And because it did not rise as much, it would only buy about 2.5 loaves at 200 billion per mark by 1923. But here's the reality of it. The paper mark had no value. Silver still had value. You could still buy things with it. This is a Deutschmark from that period of time. Let's see, it's, I think it's 9 million, oh no, it's 1 million. It's 1 million. On the back, it's blank. The reason why it's blank is because at least they would have some paper to write on, which had more value than this 1 million mark note. Do you see my point here? We've seen a lot of those pictures. Now, how did gold behave during that same period of time? Okay, well, frankly, okay, you could buy 5 loaves of bread in 1918. By 1923, this itty bitty piece of gold could buy you 435 loaves of bread. So while I really prefer silver to barterability, we can see that gold really holds its value, you know, I'm sorry, but it does a bit better than silver does during these events. But the point is that both of them have high market value because they're used across the entire global spectrum in every single area. So there's always demand. This thing, used in one area, only as a tool of barter, and it didn't have any value as that, so here you go as a pad. Fiat money loses all value during these periods. Gold and silver do not. Now, I put in here the gold and silver ratio because what's interesting about this for the Deutschmark is you can see that ratio maintained within a range, okay? Somewhere between 14 and 16 times. But then once we hit a certain point in that, in the hyperinflationary event, all of this in 1923, then that's when it jumped. So the ratio jumped, and that's why you saw the difference in purchasing power between the silver, the 1 ounce silver coin and the 20th of an ounce gold coin. But we're really lucky. If you are not in Venezuela or not in a country that's because there's a number of countries right now that are experiencing a rapid inflation, a hyperinflationary event. I mean, this is starting to really happen in many places right now. But in Venezuela, for sure, it's happening right now. And we all know that. So they didn't have a small enough gold coin. So I did this to 20 bolivars. So these are all equal in purchasing power. And of course, what's happening right now, because this is not over yet, that's why I think it's so important for us to pay attention to see what is likely in our near future. We know that the food prices skyrocket in terms of bolivars, okay, in terms of that fiat money. And we also know that wages never ever keep pace with that. So, of course, people cut back and they do what they have to do. But let's take a look at what is actually happening there with gold and silver. We've looked at this before, particularly, and you can see paper bolivar. This is their inflation rate. So I want you to just look at that pattern. And here's silver, and look at this pattern. But what I want you to see is that in 2009, the bolivars to an ounce of silver were 38.99 bolivars to 1 ounce. This is when they did the official reset, February 7th, so just recently. And so it went from, say, 39 bolivars to over 415,000 bolivars. And when I pulled that chart on the 20th, so yesterday, it was up to over 1 million bolivars. Now, does that mean that this is worth that much more? No, that's the bolivar losing all of its value as a currency, but silver retaining it. And here's the graph on gold. We see the same kind of thing. In 2009, it was roughly 2,400 bolivars for an ounce of gold. Well, when they reset it to over 33 million bolivars, and that was on the February 7th. Where is it right now? Over 101 million bolivars for 1 ounce of gold. Except the problem is the bolivar has more value as a napkin for an empanada. It has no market value. But I'm going to tell you, in Venezuela, silver and gold are maintaining your purchasing power so that you can still buy the food or anything else that you might need. Of course, 90% of the population don't have any gold or silver, so they're in abject poverty. But I'll bet you the 10% that do have gold and silver are why they are not in abject poverty.